Thank you. All right, so just for those who don't know what energy services means, at Leeward, energy services means operations, trading, scheduling. In the old days, it also included settlement, but as we're progressing, we're moving into more segregation of duties, so that's kind of being separated out. Some of you, I see some repeat customers from last year, so some of you, this will just be an update of what we're doing and some lessons learned. But essentially, it talks about, what we'll talk about is a little bit about Leeward and then a whole bunch about how we're using the Adapt2 platform to really be from cradle to grave, from forecasting all the way to settlement, and how we use it as our system of record, and also some lessons learned. So just to tell you who we are, Leeward is a growing renewable company. We had a big growth spurt between 22 and last year, continuing. This is a little bit outdated, but I think we're now at 5 gigs, and we're at about 35 projects, maybe even more than that. I think it might be 37 projects. So our platform is growing. Our platform is across most of the country. We're in the WEC, we're in California, CAISO. The only place we're not is in the Northeast. This is a lot of corporate goals. We're big on community, and we invest in the local communities, and everything from bee farms to fire trucks to helping the local VA with whatever they might house the community. This is kind of a footprint, as again, there's a few things missing here. This is a bit dated, but what you'll see is, we're kind of everywhere, and we're expanding. We're having a big push at the PJM, and also in CAISO over the next, and SPP here in the next 6 months. So this is our management. We have a few new leaders, which I couldn't get pictures from. They went incognito on me, so until they issue a public picture, all you get is their names, but pretty much the same team as last year. Very stable, been around together for several years and lots of experience in the business. Social governance profile, we do all the things that ESG is part of what we do. So, just kind of a quick look at some of the things that we focus on. There's a big push, especially from our sponsor, about having a good corporate culture, and this is part of that. All right, so let's talk about what triggered all of this. Some of you might have seen this slide before, but Leeward was faced with an interesting opportunity about super growth and having everything outsourced and having settlements and forecasting and everything done outside. So the project was, we're growing to be 44 units by 2028. We were at 7 units in 2023 under management, so we needed something that was scalable, something that could do all the things that a proper IPP with a trading arm or some trading ambitions wanted to do, especially as you add these projects. For those of you that are in the renewable energy business, you know that as you sign PPAs, you introduce basis risk in the portfolio. So we were getting increased volume exposure to commodities, increased basis risk, and a whole bunch of administrative stuff that was being subcontracted out, and it was very expensive. So the objective was, to build all this infrastructure, and then go out and monetize and add value to the company. So again, these are all the opportunity sets, right? So the opportunity set was repatriation of a bunch of assets, start managing your commodity exposure, and as I mentioned, the basis is a big one for renewable energy projects. And then we said, okay, that's what we need to do. What's the system that we want to use? So we went out to market, and we chose Adapt2, and we chose Adapt2 for all these reasons, right? It's a bit-to-bill system. You can schedule, you can do invoicing, you can do tags, you can do rec management, you can connect your settlements to the general ledger. And then from a risk perspective, they have a nice little ETRM that is just the right size for somebody like us, allows us to do just the right amount of risk calculations, allows us to do all the trade capture, all the trade settlement. And one thing that we added since the last time we spoke is we are now connecting all the awards from the ISOs straight into the ETRM. So we don't need to actually physically manually enter a trade. As the ISO gives us the award for trades and virtuals and whatnot, it goes straight into the ETRM. So now we have a fully integrated from forecasting all the way to the general ledger system, and we have a risk system as well. So the red is just kind of summarizing what I just said, and the real star of the show, I think, though, is this bad boy, right? This is the processes that we use. So maybe I'll go back on this side for a second. So as you can see, like anything inside the red line is what Adapt2 gives us from a system perspective. And then the 3 modules that we have from Adapt2. So how do we use them? So let's start with, the first thing we do every morning is try to forecast our obligations, forecast our positions, what risk do we have in the book. So we bring in a whole bunch of market data. We bring in ICE curves, we bring Platts, which is another market curve. We bring Meteorologica, which gives us our generation forecast, and that goes into our ETRM, which generates our risk position. So from there, we generate forecasts, and those forecasts are adjusted for all the tax equity limitations that we have through our financing arrangements. It generates price curves and gives us VAR, implied volatility. So we start off the morning with everything in front of us, everything, our position, our risk, where the market is. So then, what's the next thing we do? Well, the next thing we do is that data goes to, we use it to do scheduling, so we submit our schedules to the ISO, and then the awards come back, and then the awards go into the scheduling module and then go back into the trade capture. As I said earlier, that anything that's awarded from the ISO automatically becomes a trade in our system so that the risk is automatically updated in real time. Once the positions are updated, then we do again, we recalculate all the P&L and risk parameters, and during the course of the day, as things settle, then they find their way into the settlement system where we settle trades, PPAs, our FTR trades, and we also do a shadow settlement, and then once all the data is processed by the settlement system, we have an API that feeds our general ledger, and then the back office takes that and generates invoices and whatnot. Also, all that information goes to our credit team, which is using all this information to see what kind of exposures we have to different counterparties. And so that gets updated in the real time as well. And as you can see, the yellow box is what I'm talking about is when we get the awards, it goes into the scheduling and then finds its way into the trade capture and settlement process. The gray box is all the interactions we have with the ISOs. You can add SPP to that one. We're doing SPP now as well. And then all the non-ISO trades on ICE, bilaterals, RECs, those are also fed into the system and go through a similar process. So the advantage, having worked in multiple trading shops where there's different systems for the ETRM and different connections to the general ledger, for somebody like Leeward, which didn't really have the scale to kind of go with these massive systems, the Adapt2 suite provides all the functionality we wanted, but also provided all the integration that we wanted, which was really important to us. We didn't want to have multiple systems. We had that before when everything was subcontracted out. We had a Tenaska thing, and then we had somebody else's thing, and then we had it was always different. Now, all the screens look the same, they're all done the same, they're all consistent with each other, they communicate with each other, and one of the reasons we liked Adapt2 as well was that it's a Microsoft-based system, and we're a D365 shop, so the integration for us into the D365 system was much easier than going for something with like an Oracle or something else. Technology was much more compatible. So I will say that the implementation of all this, there's some lessons learned, and it takes a lot of time. And the time portion of it can be managed, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, there's definitely some lessons learned, right? Because one of the things this does for us, right, is it provides us certainty, right? And when you buy an integrated system like this, or when you use an integrated system like this, right, the output, yeah, it's all the data and all the nice little things, but at the end of the day, what you want is certainty that things come out and get delivered on time, the data comes in, right? So what are some of the lessons we learned about that? So, as much as we wanted to think that we were going to put together a scheduling and settlement system, right, the final product of the system is really certainty, right? When you go to FedEx, right, they're not selling you a delivery packet, a delivery service. What they're selling you is certainty that the package will get there. So if you buy, so we feel the same way here. Is like we're buying certainty, and we're getting certainty from the system because it does it consistently and delivers it all the time, right? So what are some of the lessons we learned? So fully scoped, fully staffed, key to success. And what do I mean by that is when you start an implementation, knowing where you want to end up and knowing where you're starting from is really important, and mapping that all the way through is really important. The other thing that's really important in that process is that the stakeholders must hold each other accountable, whether it's the customer request or the programmer, right? Everybody has to be accountable to everybody else. Like there cannot be lags or holes that creep up, because that just creates, it kills time, and then what ends up happening is time is never your friend, right? In these projects, we found that the modules that were the most scoped, most clear, were done the quickest and the most efficient and the best. And while we had other, for example, we didn't have our ducks in a row for PJM. We had an issue with the risk policy, and PJM was giving us permissions to do things a little bit at a time. And we tried to implement through that. And we did, but it wasn't as efficient, say, as when we did the SPP module, which took 20 days, and it was done, right? A much simpler process because we were totally prepared. We saw it coming. We mapped out the process, and it was seamless. So what I would recommend is when you do something like this, make sure that the path is completely scoped out, you hold each other accountable, and make sure that no time is wasted, because time is never your friend. The other thing, again, I focus a lot on this process certainty, because it's really important, right? What matters to my CFO is that every morning he gets the P&L, he gets the risk, right? And if he doesn't get that, there's some phone calls being made, and nobody wants to answer those phone calls. So the certainty of the outcome is really important. That's really the end product of all of this. And again, the process execution and completion, and then accuracy and completeness, right? All goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you scope that out, all these things kind of fit together, right? And then the other part that I think is really important, right? You buy this system, and it's all this fancy software, and it's got all this stuff and all these bells and whistles. But the really important part of the whole system is what it does with the data, right? So scoping and defining the data you want to pull in, that's really an important parameter. Because if you don't know what you want to pull in, or if you're pulling in too much, then it just kind of muddies the water and doesn't help much. It makes implementation a little bit more confusing. So these are the lessons learned that we saw from our implementation. And again, I think for us, it's making sure that we get all the data flowing through the system consistently and properly, and which then leads the project to certainty of process and delivery of goods and to the stakeholders, CFO, head of trading, all that stuff. So this is the update where we are. We're just almost done. I think we got maybe a couple of more weeks before we can check the implementation box. It's been, like I said, there's been some starts and stops because of poor planning on our part and giving too much time in between getting enough information. But yeah, by the time like I said, this is going to give us the certainty and the process and all the data we want and fully integrate the system within the LRE systems. So I think that's it. There's nothing else, yeah? Nothing else, but any questions? Yes, sir.
What's been your experience handling market changes? Like I know in CAISO there's the extended data-head market enhancement that was done, or those are ACVs. Since you use Adapt2 for a lot of your functions,
Yeah.
what's been your experience implementing those changes?
From what I've seen, like, so I think the ERCOT one was pretty seamless. Like, we spent a lot of time on the communication stuff with the ISO through Adapt2, so we kind of expected it, and so I think we were set up to do it really quickly and really well. The CAISO one, I know it's coming. It's happening right now, I think, so I'm not quite sure what the final outcome, but I mean, the communication with Adapt2 was good. The operations team was on it, so I don't think there's going to be any issues.
You mentioned like putting in volatility curves and calculating VAR. I just wanted to clarify, is that something that you're doing in Adapt2, or are you pulling data out of Adapt2 and putting it into ETRM? And if you're doing the latter...
So we're pulling in the prices from it in Adapt2, and then we're also using the Adapt2 VAR module to calculate the VAR. Now, it's a very, it's a simplified version of VAR. It's not like, I don't know, I don't even know where to go with this, but like it's not like, sorry?
It's not open link.
Yeah, it's not open link. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we do use it to calculate VAR, and again, very simplistic version of VAR.
Looks like a ton of progress from where you were last year, and
Yes.
only a couple weeks away. I'm curious, as you reach that milestone, are there areas that you're looking forward to next with Adapt2 in terms of AI integration, or maybe making your life a little bit easier getting these reports out?
Yeah, so I think the next steps for us is once we finish implementation, we've done a lot of work with a lot of different people. We just want to take a step back and kind of see like what we missed, right? I think that's the first thing we want to do. When we look at our ETRM, I know, for example, that we're booking a trade. It works, but it's not the way it's supposed to be, right? So we go back and fix some things like that. Very minor stuff, right? But once we get all the blemishes out, I think the next step is to see, okay, what do we do with AI? What do we do with other things? We have a big push internally we're working with, I think it's Palantir, to help us out on other processes. They haven't quite gotten to us yet, but the idea is, there's going to be a request from every department to kind of, take it to the next level. So I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet. But like I said, I think for us, once we finish the implementation, is just take a step back, see what we have, debug whatever needs debugging, find the blemishes, fix those, and then engage again.